Mm.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Adam Smith. I'm the Program Director for Dementia Researcher, and it's my pleasure to be chairing today's live stream. Today, we're going to be talking about the Daphne Jackson and Alzheimer's Society Fellowships. Joining me, we have Dr. Katie Perry, who is CEO from the Daphne Jackson Trust. We have Dr. Emily Clarke, who's a Daphne Jackson Fellow at the UK DRI at UCL. And from Alzheimer's Society, we have Julia Collins from the grants team and Lisa Hammond from Research Communications. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
There we go, straight into it. All that kind of build up while we're sitting there waiting, and that's it. I dive in. Well, let me show you quickly the program, which I'm going to flash up on the screen. There you go. So hopefully you can hear me still. First of all, we're going to be talking to Katie's going to give us an introduction to the Daphne Jackson Trust funding. And then we've got Julia, who is going to talk about how that partnership with the Alzheimer's Society is important. Then we have Emily, who's going to give us some first-hand experiences of applying for the fellowship. And then Lisa's going to talk about how the program has helped some others as well. And there'll be a chance, of course, for you all to ask questions, which you can post at any time. If you're watching and you're on YouTube, you can post those in the comments box. Or if you're watching in Twitter, you can post those below the, make a comment on the post that is the live stream, and we'll get to those at the end. You can post comments or questions at any time throughout the recording today, and we'll get to them at the end. But before we start, I wrote something. There you go. I have to read it because I haven't got that memorized, just to help set the scene. So not to sound too dramatic, but dementia research does have a problem, and that's a leaky pipeline. A significant proportion of people, particularly women, are leaving, and sadly, they don't return. In fact, a survey we undertook at UCL with iStart last year found that over 50% of respondents were thinking of leaving dementia research. And in understanding why, the reasons are all very varied, but there are shortages in funding, job security, financial security, but work-life balance was in there significantly as well. And we also discovered that 25% of those people that were thinking of leaving were also the primary carer for somebody. So we know that the caring is a significant reason why people leave. Dementia research has been brilliant at attracting women to the field, with over 60% of early career researchers are now women. However, sadly, we also see that they are less likely than their male counterparts to move up the career ladder into senior positions. And there are many reasons for this, but one of those is finding their way back into research after taking an extended career break, and that's difficult to get back. But no matter what the reasons for the career break, whether it's due to illness, caring for family or a loved one, or to start a family, finding that way back is difficult even for the most talented and motivated people. And this is where we were really keen and pleased to be able to do this live stream, because programs like this from the Daphne Jackson Trust and Alzheimer's Society are so important. And it's why we're keen to hear about their work, because they can make a massive difference to providing that way back into research if you've taken a career break for whatever reason. And it's only by bringing people back at those mid stages that we're going to start to, along with other changes that need to happen as well in academic structures, but it's one way to make sure that we can start to bring more people, women, into some of those senior roles as well. And Daphne Jackson Trust, of course, it's not all about money, it's about support and other things as well. But that's enough from me. Katie.
I'll say, Adam, you done a grand job
just
there.
Kind of want to do your job for. Yeah, exactly. Sorry. But I mean, it's important. It's something we kind of campaign for here at Dementia Researcher. And over to you. Tell us about Daphne Jackson.
It's really set the scene very well, actually, for what. So I've been CEO of the Daphne Jackson Trust now since 2011. I've actually had involvement with them for a great deal longer than that. And actually, some people have said to me, oh, gosh, aren't you moving on? But do you know what? I don't think I will ever want to move on, because I love my job so much. I love the organisation. It's very personal to me because I knew Daphne. So she was the first ever female physics professor in the country when she was 34. She was based at the Department of Physics at the University of Surrey, which is why this is where our office is based. But because I knew her personally, and I knew her when she became ill, she would talk to me quite a lot. And how she started and why she started this was that the story goes she was in a supermarket doing her shopping, and she bumped into an ex-researcher of hers who was there working in the supermarket. And she said, "What on earth are you doing when you've got all your skills and experience working in the supermarket?" And she said, "Well, I had a break, I had a family, and I can't get back to research." So Daphne decided she would do something about this. And so she herself devised the fellowships in the form that they are. And they've stayed the same because the format works so well. So it's part-time. It offers somebody the chance to do a challenging research project alongside an individually tailored retraining program. So it takes somebody who's been on a break, and puts them back on a level playing field with their peers. It offers them the chance to conduct research and get a recent research record, but also retrain. And for quite a few of our fellows, they have worked in an area before their break that's slightly different. So some of them do shift their area of expertise. But I would say they are now, we've developed the fellowships, obviously, from when Daphne started them. One of the key things about a Daphne Jackson Fellowship is the unrivaled level of support and guidance and mentoring and advice. And I can see Emily nodding, that fellows get and applicants get throughout the application process, throughout the fellowship. And I would say once you're part of the Daphne Jackson family, you stay there. In the last few days, we have just started a closed LinkedIn group for all of our former and current fellows. In 24 hours, we've got 90 people sign up. So that just shows the engagement from both former and current fellows with having a cohort together. So the trust itself was set up after Daphne passed away in 1991. So we are basically the only charitable organisation in the UK solely dedicated to returners. But we're a small organisation. We have 13 staff that work an equivalent of 9.1 FTE. So, we're teeny tiny. But I think what we do is we work extremely well with many collaborators and stakeholders. So this is why I'm so delighted that we're now working with the Alzheimer Society. We are a facilitating organisation, so we effectively match people with sources of funding. So Daphne, very sadly, wasn't a rich lady, didn't leave us with a huge endowment. So basically my role is to make those arrangements and make those, working, taking sponsors, taking fellows, putting them together. So as I've developed through over the last 10 years, what we have done is make arrangements with organisations that want to host and sponsor our Daphne Jackson Fellow, and we will advertise opportunities. And that's what we're doing with the Alzheimer Society. That's what we did with Emily. So we're advertising an opportunity for a Daphne Jackson Fellowship, which can be anywhere. And what we will do is we go through our eligibility and the application process. So just very briefly, we take someone, we assess their eligibility, and then they go into our process, and it's quite a rigorous process. And that actually, I think, as Emily will say, it's part of the retraining. And I'm not going to say any more because I know, Emily, you're going to say something about that in a minute. So but it's quite a lengthy process. But what we want to make sure is that the people that we've got coming through our application process know what's involved in returning to a research career, and are really ready when they hit the ground with the start of their fellowship. So our eligibility criteria are that somebody has to have had a prolonged break. So that's 2 years or more. To be honest, 2 years is our shortest break. 21 years is our longest break. So anything from 2 to 21 years. The average is 7. So the average break that someone's away. The break has to be for a family, caring or health reason. And on our last former fellows survey, every 5 years, we do a survey of our former fellows. We had a 90% hit rate in fellows giving us the information. So for us, I think that's a phenomenal rate of people filling in the survey. Family reasons were 72%. Caring responsibilities is 21%, and health reasons is 7%. So our break has to be for family, caring or health. As you can see, predominantly family, but caring and health are certainly there. And what our fellows go on to afterwards, once they've completed their fellowship, many will stay in research, and then for a period of 5 years they stay in research. I think we're up to about over half will stay in research for 5-year period afterwards. But often they'll be adding in a few other things like research management or teaching, etc. The one stat that we do have that we're incredibly proud of, though, is that 10 of our former fellows have gone on to become professors, which, according to other stats in the research sector generally, it's 5 times the national average. So once they're back, our fellows are very, very successful. So I think I don't want to go too much. I think probably I'll leave it there. It's just given you a flavour of who we are and what we do. And I'm going to hand over to Julia, I think. So Julia, you can say a little bit about how we got together.
Yes, thank you very much, Katie. That was a great insight into what Daphne Jackson Trust offers, and it really aligns with. So we had a thinking process after the pandemic. We really needed to look at what we were doing as a funder, what we were funding, and we wanted to place a greater emphasis on supporting early career researchers, but also supporting the researchers who we fund more generally. And a big driver for us, both in our organisation and in our team, has been equality, diversity and inclusion. And for us, a key strand for that is really understanding a person as an individual, accepting them for who they are, understanding what their unique perspective of the world is and how that can inform their work. And so, yeah, we wanted to reflect that in our funding process. I think it would probably be fair to say that for researchers, there's this very clear-cut expectation of what they need to do. They get their PhD, they're on a clear trajectory, for gaining grants, publishing in high-end journals, really progressing until they reach that contracted professorship. And the only way to do that, or the only way that's been seen classically to do that, is to be continually in work and always demonstrating that clear and unbroken record. But of course, the reality, as Katie clearly before, is that life gets in the way. We have career breaks. Children come along; they need looking after. Caring responsibilities for other family members or even friends, comes along and takes precedence. And then illness happens, and so work takes a back seat. But that person who was a researcher is still a researcher. They've still got that wealth of knowledge and skills. And we need to keep that in dementia research. We have a leaky pipeline, as Adam was saying. We can't be just saying, well, sorry, you had that break for 2 or more years. We can't have you in the workplace anymore. Just because they're not in the lab or analysing data there and then doesn't mean they've forgotten how to do that. So during the process that we went through of reworking our grants, trying to make them more attractive and better for our dementia researcher pipeline, we looked at our eligibility criteria and the expectations that we previously had for researchers, and realized that there was this unmet need for people that had a career break, and we were making it more difficult really to support people to get back into research because we hadn't taken the time to look at that for a while. Publication gaps are usually questioned when it comes to things being reviewed, and why somebody hasn't applied for a particular grant at a certain time, or they're X number of years post PhD, they should be leading a lab now. It's not reflective of the real world, and you can't be debating somebody's commitment to a research cause because of areas like that. So we dementia researchers work in a really difficult disease. And we've got a lot of talented researchers, and we want to keep them, and we need to, so that we can continually make those differences in the field and create change for people who are affected by dementia now. So we can't lose people because they've had to let a life happen. So as a charity funder, we really wanted to offer more opportunities for researchers to come back into dementia research. Particularly because of that stigma that comes with having a career break on your CV. And whilst we were going through this thinking process, we learned about the Daphne Jackson Trust, that they are there supporting people in this field. We had that link, and so reached out to really set this up, get the ball rolling. And something that we want to do now more of is to focus on spreading the word. Hence why I approached Adam to get the word out there with avenues like this, make people aware that the option is there, that they can come back to dementia research, that there is a really supportive route for that, and there are people there wanting to help them.
Excellent. Now, do you know, we've been working for so many years to normalise the non-traditional career path. You know, career paths aren't linear. You may have an idea of what you want to do, but life happens and you take detours. And I think that's why working with more organisations who are, you know, opening up opportunities to their own communities it helps to normalise it more quickly.
Yeah, it's just it's so wonderful to know that there is, you know, you're the experts in that, how to support somebody to come back in. We had the thought that we needed to help, but we're a tiny little grants team and we didn't have that expertise, but we can join with somebody like yourselves. And
I mean, we've got such experience in knowing what the barriers are, the challenges returners face, and then how to overcome them.
Yeah,
like Emily's done.
Yes.
What a great segue.
It's very smooth.
Brilliant. Emily, would you, I mean, obviously, so I don't know if you want to talk about your experiences of becoming a Daphne Jackson Trust fellow.
Yeah, so just kind of let you know a little bit about myself and my journey. So prior to my career break, I did a PhD in neuroscience, and I've always worked in the dementia field. And I was on my second postdoc position when I fell pregnant. And when I had my son, there was complications at birth. And I decided at that point I wanted to take a career break in order to look after him and kind of come to terms with what was quite a difficult time in my life. And so, yeah, it took quite an abrupt, unexpected career break. And as we were saying, life isn't linear. These things come up, you know, come into your life and you have to change what you thought you were going to do. So I took a career break, and after about 2.5 years, I decided I was feeling like I was ready to go back to work. So I started looking at job applications, and I just couldn't find anything that would fit for my family needs and also for my personal needs. After that amount of time away, it's not a huge amount of time away, but as we were talking about, it is a gap in your CV. I was struggling to find people who would consider me for a position. And I emailed a lot of the PIs with the job adverts asking about flexibility or possibilities for part-time work. And I didn't even get a single reply. So I was kind of going through my networks of people I knew, and I came across a PI, and she mentioned the Daphne Jackson Trust. Now, she didn't work in my field, but she mentioned the Daphne Jackson Trust. I'd never heard of it before. So I kind of went away and I looked into it, and I thought, this is absolutely ideal for what I need. I couldn't go back to work full time. I felt that would have been overwhelming for me personally. And I don't think it would have been a good, it wouldn't have been a good work environment either for me or the lab. It just wouldn't have been conducive to good work. And also childcare. Childcare is incredibly expensive. I live in London, you know, it's just not feasible to have my son in childcare full time. Anyway, so going back to the fellowship, part-time, flexible working, the support for me was a big element. I think you'll find a lot of returners, as eager as they are to get back to work, there's a massive lack of confidence after being away for so long, because you're compared to people who are kind of in the routine of doing experiments day in, day out, data analysis, and you get a little bit rusty. So I was a bit like, my confidence kind of took a hit, especially after I couldn't find something that would fit my skills. So the whole retraining element of this actually was really appealing for me. And it just so happened at the time I saw the call was out for Daphne Jackson Trust with a Alzheimer Society sponsored fellowship. This is absolutely ideal for me because I work in the dementia field. So that's how I found it. And I put the application in and I was eligible for it. And then from that point on, you work on a project proposal with a dedicated fellowship advisor who is incredible. So you work with your fellowship advisor to get your proposal in the best possible shape for your funder, so for the Alzheimer's Society. Now, the process can seem quite long from the outset. It can take up to a year at this point, and some people think that's too long, but actually during that time you build your confidence, you build your skills, and you're in a much better position to hit the ground running, like Katie said. When you do become successful and you get back into work, you don't feel like you're behind as much. And in that process as well, I found I developed a much stronger relationship with my supervisor in the lab than I otherwise would have done. So he knows me very well already, and I've only been in work for 4 weeks. We know each other very well. He knows what I've got to give. He knows about my flexibility requirements and is very understanding. I've already had a day when my son got sent home from nursery, and that wasn't a problem. We rearranged, we got everything sorted. So there's lots of pros to actually the process being a little bit longer. So I wouldn't let that put people off. And it doesn't necessarily take a year. It can be much quicker. So mine was actually 7 months, just because of the timing of the awards panels and things like that. So yeah, I've been in work for 4 weeks now, so I'm relatively new. And yeah, I'm so delighted that I came across this opportunity, because I don't think I would have been able to return to work in the environment I wanted to be in, the lab doing dementia research, otherwise with my requirements for childcare, and just that kind of gentler start into it after being away. Adam, I think you're on mute.
Oh no, there always had to be one, and why did it have to be me? Yeah, I mean, I've already got so many questions written down here, just which we've had some come through as well already. But that's, I mean, it's great to hear, and I didn't realize you were so fresh back as well. It's just at the start of the summer. Could you not delay that maybe till the?
Do you know what? I was just ready.
I can totally understand that. I'm going to save my questions. Because we'll have more of a chat in the round at the end, I think, and we're going to go to Lisa now, because I think, Lisa, you've got some understanding from how the program has helped others as well.
Can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Oh, brilliant, wonderful. So last year, myself and Francesca Scott, who's also comms manager at Daphne Jackson, we were looking at how we can promote the funding scheme. And that led us to interviewing Emily and also another lady up in Scotland. So that was, let me just get her name, Dr. Rachel James. And speaking to them both was really incredibly insightful to actually see the struggles of returning back to research, that the fact that life isn't linear, and Emily's mentioned that a couple of times, life is not linear, and we shouldn't almost have to punish researchers for having a life, and actually give them the ability to come back, because there is such a wealth of knowledge, such a wealth of experience, and even taking a career break isn't them pausing on that experience, but actually developing even more different things that they can bring into the research lab. I can't remember where the stat is from, but it actually shows that having women in a research environment makes the research or the work environment more compassionate. And I think there is a certain softness and compassion and understanding that having someone go through a process of going away and coming back just brings to a working environment, which is normal, which is healthy as well. And one of the things that was sort of brought up is the fact that we should maybe rebrand having calling it a career break, calling it a pause or a pivot. It's just a pivot. It's just a natural progression of life. And I think giving people the chance to know at the beginning that actually, even if you don't have one thing to another thing to another thing, there are different ways in which you can go, and it's not seen as a detriment to your career, but actually you're just doing life, and researchers have lives, and it's okay to have lives. And it just makes you a whole person. And yeah, it's just amazing to hear these stories, and actually to be able to support great researchers go back to doing great research that ultimately will help the people that we want to help the most. And for us at the Alzheimer Society is people affected by dementia. And I know that Katie probably has massive loads of stories of people who have actually gone in, progressed, and are making such a huge difference within their fields, but also within their research environments as well.
Absolutely. Do you know, transferable skills, when you've been out on a break, you know, I used to say this when I used to go out and speak, you know, the sorts of transferable skills that fellows get, you know, conflict resolution. If you've got 2 little kids at home, I mean, conflict resolution, decision making, you know, prioritization, multitasking, all of those things, you know, absolutely are heightened. And certainly for caring responsibilities as well, people come back with a new insight. I mean, my own personal story is that I lived with and cared for my mother, who has dementia, is now in a care home. But through COVID, I was trying to manage the trust and my job and dementia, and I firsthand know, you know, what that is like. So a lot of our fellows will come back into the workplace having had that experience of caring. So I think it's incredibly important that those transferable skills aren't forgotten.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to dive into my questions. Everybody who's watching, I'll come to yours, but I'm going to ask mine first because I want to clear up what the fellowship is and what it isn't. I think is important to cover, because obviously when you might think of say like an AR UK fellowship or an Alzheimer's Society fellowship, Alzheimer's Society fellowship. Of course, a normal Alzheimer's fellowship is fundamentally is funding. You've got a job and it's funding to do a job for 4 or 5 years. Daphne Jackson is different to that, isn't it? In so much as what I mean, well, no, you tell me. I'm not. Is this applying for funding from Alzheimer's Society to do a fellowship that already exists, or to a job you've got to find? Then what is and isn't this? Because I wasn't entirely clear. Well, I thought it was clear until I heard from Emily.
Julia, do you want to do this or shall I? I mean, basically, it's an Alzheimer's Society sponsored Daphne Jackson Fellowship. So the Alzheimer's Society are sponsoring a Daphne Jackson Fellowship. So what a Daphne Jackson Fellowship is, 3 years part-time. So the fellowship is a 3-year duration. It's part-time. It's aimed at those who are most likely at postdoctoral level before they took their break. They have to have had a career break for a family, caring or health reason, and they want to return to a research career. The actual fellowship is half-time. Although there's flexibility on that, I have to say. We're small enough that we can offer a bespoke approach. I mean, if somebody wanted to work slightly different FTE, then we'd talk to Alzheimer's Society. If it was possible, we would do it. But pretty much it's half time. They will conduct research alongside an individually tailored retraining program. So I think probably the difference, Adam, from a normal, more traditional fellowship is that there's the retraining program and the extra support and mentoring and guidance. So we're like a stepping stone between being away from research and the next step, which will probably be applying for a more traditional fellowship.
Right. And that actually answers another question I have, which is this whole challenge of people, I mean, lose touch, right? I mean, if you've been away for, well, you said some people have been away for over a decade, you're just not necessarily as in touch with the field to even know who to go to get, you know, the job. So if I'm right, then, so you apply for this. If you're successful, you've secured that funding for a part-time position, and then you work together to find an actual employer.
So how they work is that if somebody comes to us, we will talk to them, and before they actually apply, we will say, look, where do you think you want to go? So we will potentially give people a little bit of guidance, and we'll work with Alzheimer's Society. Generally, if somebody has started looking at returning to a research career, they know where they want to go and what they want to do. They know where they're living, and they will research potential groups that they could join. Obviously, what we do is we will look when the advert is closed, we'll look at the applicants we've got, assess them for eligibility, and then we go back to the Alzheimer's Society and say, okay, here are your potential candidates for this opportunity. And then it's up to the Alzheimer's Society to choose the candidate that they prefer to go into our process. So then they've got to start and go through the whole of our process, and hopefully they're awarded at the end of it. But there's no 100% guarantee of that. They've obviously got to be able to produce a research proposal and have a proposal that's good enough to be awarded by our awards assessment panel.
Of course. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So you get that. So having been accepted, you must immediately then become more attractive to a potential institution because you're coming with funding.
Yeah. My experience of that has been you're bringing the funding, so it's your salary that is being funded by Alzheimer Society. But because you're bringing your own funding, and you're an attractive kind of prospect for employers. And the fact that you're writing, it's your project proposal, you are taking the load of writing the proposal and showing your abilities in being able to write a proposal. That's not an easy thing to do. So for my PI that I'm working with, he found that actually really helpful, and it kind of showcased what I could do.
And the other thing just to mention at this point is that many universities are wanting to engage in a more demonstrable way with the EDI agenda to improve their own research culture. So actually supporting a Daphne Jackson Fellowship is a great way of them doing that.
And I suppose having the Alzheimer's Society involved as well enables that if you have been out of touch for quite some time and you haven't necessarily got the PIs or the contacts, that they can help make connections to understand what's a topical issue right now, what kind of proposal is going to be attractive to people, so that not only do you come with a great idea, but with the funding, but with a great idea as well.
Yeah, we still go through the peer review process, so it's not just blindly, oh, that's a lovely written work there.
You don't just go, I like the look of you. You can
have some money. Yeah. It's a rigorous process and peer reviewed, and our fellowships are seen as quite prestigious, but obviously somebody has to meet all the requirements that anyone else applying for any other kind of academic fellowship would.
So what does that support? Obviously you said it can take up a year. What happens during that year? What's the support look like? Is this all about this proposal, or is it more than that?
I'll very briefly say what the process is, and then Emily, you might want to add in a couple of little bits. So we will assess someone for eligibility. That's about an hour and a half's phone call with a fellowship advisor to find out what somebody did before their break, why they had a break, and then what they're wanting to return to make sure they're realistic in what they want to return to. They will then take, maybe this is the bit that can be longer or shorter, some time working with and jointly with their supervisor to develop the proposal to our guidelines. When we have a sponsored fellowship opportunity like the Alzheimer's Society one, I don't have to do the bit that I would do for some of them, which is then find the funding. Once they've produced a proposal that's good enough, then we invite them in for an interview. The interview happens at an earlier stage to any other academic fellowship. That interview is actually both assessment and support. So we will then give recommendations for any changes to the proposal. The candidate will then go off and make those changes. Then we will send that proposal to two independent technical referees in the field. That comes back with tech comments. The applicant and their supervisor will answer those comments. It's then all sent off to 6 members of our awards assessment panel for them to assess it for award of fellowship. The reason it can take up to a year is that obviously we've got a time when we're advertising, then a period of time when the applicant is producing their proposal, then they've got to be interviewed and then go on to awards assessment panel. So if the timings are just right, as Emily said, and if Emily, you and your supervisor produced a very good proposal very quickly. Some people take a little bit longer if they're sourcing the right group or whatever. So that's why we like to say about a year, because we don't want to raise people's expectations that they're going to be through and in 3 or 4 months, because that's not going to happen. But the bit where you get all the support, Emily, is with the fellowship advisor when you're writing the proposal.
Yeah, so the fellowship advisor is so important. So what happens is you are accepted as a Daphne Jackson Fellow, And then you're asked to write a project proposal. So you get sent over the guidelines of what the proposal should look like. And it's really overwhelming. So you're looking at this document and there's a lot to put in this document. And where do you start? And then your fellowship advisor rings you and it all gets better. So she was just on the phone or email, bouncing ideas back and forth. I'd write little sections and send them off to her, and she'd read and give comments. And she was just so helpful. And but it wasn't like she was giving her deadlines for anything. She was very understanding if maybe one week I couldn't get a section of the proposal written, fully understanding about life happening, children, and all of that. So yeah, we went back and forth. Because she wasn't an expert necessarily in what I did, she really helped with kind of the language and the tone that it was written and all the jargon, and really kind of boiling it down to make sure that this proposal was understandable and clear and fundable as well. We're talking about timelines, what's realistic for a part-time fellow, because anything I've written proposal-wise previously is when I was working full-time, and you've got to make these adjustments. And I think I was over-ambitious at points, and she really helped bring me back into what is achievable now I'm working part-time. So yeah, we wrote the proposal over several months together and sent that off. And the interview was like no interview I've ever been to, because it's not all about trying to trip you up. It's a very supportive interview. And we also, at the interview, we had the Alzheimer Society, I can't remember the title, the guy that, the lay person at the interview.
Our research network volunteers.
That's right. So it was really interesting to have him there and kind of explaining to him what I was doing and how that would kind of benefit his condition going forward or for future generations. And it was, we went through the proposal line by line, and what improvements could be made timeline wise was quite a big one. Can we explain things a little bit better for the lay audience was another point that we kind of really drilled down onto. And yeah, it wasn't an interview of what do you know, what don't you know, what can we kind of, it didn't make you feel uncomfortable at all. It was getting the proposal in the best possible shape so we can get the funding secured, so we can get back in the lab and actually get on with the dementia research. And that's how I came away from that experience feeling. So after the interview, we had the technical reviews, which were quite tricky, but like any proposal you put in, the technical reviews are always tricky, and that's the way it should be. It is rigorous. It's really important to spend the money from the charity wisely. So we had the technical reviews, and yeah, here I am.
Technical question.
Yeah.
So you're obviously, you mentioned at the start that you're in the I can say this because we work with the DRI all the time. So you're in the UK Dementia Research Institute with the PI you mentioned. At what point did they kind of see or contribute or get input into that proposal, or do they at all?
Yes, they do, very early on. So I contacted my supervisors, Dr. Tim Bartels, and he specialises more in synuclein, like Lewy body dementia type dementia. And I contacted him way before I applied for this fellowship, just asking about whether he'd consider having me in the lab and explaining the difference between a Daphne Jackson type fellowship as opposed to a normal fellowship, with the retraining element, the fact it was part-time, and he was fully on board. And we actually had a lot of conversations before the application went, the proposal even kind of started, about what would the project look like together, what could we actually do in that time together. So we were actually very involved. I wrote the proposal, but we went back and forth with my supervisor a lot to make sure that the science was right, what we were doing, there was a purpose for doing it, and I could actually do it, and he could provide the support that I needed to learn, to retrain the skills I know but kind of a bit rusty, but also we put in new skills in there that I don't know how to do, and he's going to teach me how to do them as part of the fellowship. And we really made sure that we did both of those things, retraining and training for new skills as well. And that was before we started writing the proposal and throughout when we were kind of sending drafts to one another.
I don't know if this is a question for Lisa or Julia. If somebody who's watching hasn't got, isn't in touch with their old PR, or is maybe relocated, to a different part of the country, and don't have that connection, is that something that that falls out of this process? It gets made, you help connect them, or do they need to do that bit themselves?
Oh no, absolutely. We want to give somebody as much support as possible. If they had, any ideas that they had, they can bring to us, and then we've got good connections with the research community. We've got good knowledge within the team, and we can and we have good links with other researchers who will be able to support us as well. So even if we didn't know that as a team, we take that to the people that are linked to us through, say, our grant advisory board members or our research strategy council members, people that we have those links with, and ask them to help us move things forward for the fellow.
And is that, can you be sensitive in that process? If somebody's watching who left because of a workplace difficulty, for example, they'd maybe had some friction or there was a problem in the lab, we know this happens. Let's not pretend it doesn't, that people do leave because there's problems at work, that they then might want to avoid going back to the same place or avoid individuals. That's something you can accommodate and work with.
I wonder if that's a particular situation that Daphne Jackson have come across before. We obviously asked for help with managing the situation.
What I find, Adam, is that with us being the facilitating organisation, the benefit of that is that somebody can talk to us completely confidentially about any issue that they perhaps wouldn't want to talk to their potential employer about. So that could come into it. Yeah. Quite often it's things like, how am I going to manage my part-time hours? How am I going to manage the childcare? How have other fellows managed, this aspect of it, or that's this other aspect of it? The kind of things that obviously we talk about freely because we are specifically offering returning fellowships after family caring health reasons. For some people it might be around their ill health. And, that was the reason for their break. For others. So, yeah. And occasionally, obviously, if I can't think of any instances where we have actually had people wanting to go somewhere else because of an issue with a colleague. We've dealt with one or two bumpy situations as people have started their fellowships and they're getting back into the lab and they're perhaps finding their feet again and what we would say to any of our fellows, and obviously Emily, this is I don't think it's going to happen with you, but any issues during your fellowship, come to us. I mean, by all means, go deal with it locally at your host institution, but come to us because we can get involved, and you can, you can offload to us if there's anything you want to talk about, how to deal with any issues or problems. But that's not one we've actually come across, I think. Normally it's other issues.
Ill health can include mental health, I assume, if people have had mental health challenges.
Yep.
So if you've had stress in the workplace or had to leave because of reasons for that, you still be eligible for this. That's enough questions from me. I think we do have one from the audience, which I will flash up on the screen briefly there. So there was a question saying, what does flexibility practically look like when you're working in the lab? How do you manage working part-time in what's traditionally a full-time environment?
That's for me.
I think that's for you, Emily.
Yeah. So it's a challenge. So what I've done, and this is we were talking earlier about how Daphne Jackson Fellows have a real community, and at the moment to just set up a LinkedIn private group and we kind of share ideas. And everyone was talking about how do you manage your part-time hours, and there was a lot of advice there, and I've taken a piece of advice, and that is keeping a calendar and a diary and logging what I'm doing most days to get an idea of how many hours that I'm doing. Because some days I'll work more, some days I'll work less. And you can kind of be flexible with that. As we know, working in the lab, some experiments take longer than others, and you may need to be in for more days than you would otherwise be. So traditionally, I'm trying to keep to Monday, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And so I kind of want that continuity of everyone around me knowing those are the days I'm normally going to be in the lab if anyone wants me. But if I'm working, longer hours during those days, maybe the next week I might not work one of the days or have a shorter day, especially if I've got childcare requirements. And also you can bank some of the hours for, summers with children. You take time off when the kids are off school, when my boy's older, for example. So I kind of log them in my calendar, what I'm doing most days. So I'm not doing too much, and can also be flexible, work more one week to work less another for my own personal requirements.
And how obviously we might be a difficult question because obviously we know where you work, but how supportive are the institution? Not mind your boss, but at the institution, how do you organize that? Because obviously some are difficult to work out. You have to break it down to hours and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm incredibly lucky. The people that I've come across at the DRI are really on board with the Daphne Jackson approach to this fellowship. I think it's great because they talk about the number of people who have left to have a family or for other reasons. You always get, oh, so-and-so, they were an excellent scientist, but they had a kid, they left, they never came back. You hear that whenever people ask me what I'm doing. That's all I hear. And that, I think things have changed post-COVID with flexibility as well. So I think that's really gone in my favour. And they know that I want to get the work done. The work will get done. It might not get done in a traditional 9-to-5 type fashion, but the work will get done, and they know that is going to happen. At the end of the day, the results are going to speak for themselves, whether that's done 9-to-5 or done flexibly over a period of time.
Brilliant. I have one more question, is because we've talked about this. Is this just for scientists?
No. We in 2020, it started originally in all areas of STEM. We have expanded our remit. In 2020, we expanded the remit to fully include arts, humanities, social sciences. So we offer fellowships for research returners in all areas. We've had a great uptake, actually, and interest in our fellowships in arts and humanities. And our fellowship advisors have been on a steep and very interesting learning curve about research careers in arts and humanities and social sciences. And the difference is papers, no, often not. Often it's exhibitions and so many other performances and so many other areas. So it's been really exciting few years for us. And the other thing we are actually doing this year is we are rolling out a new type of fellowship that's going to be aimed at research support. So it's going to be a fellowship that's aimed at those who are in the whole research infrastructure, but probably more technician level. So the emphasis will be more on retraining rather than answering a research question. And they will be looking to return people back to careers in research support. So that's something that we're developing and going through at the moment. And that's, again, very exciting.
Brilliant. So if you're watching, this call isn't specific to scientists. It's people working in dementia and Alzheimer's across the board. And so you've got a call open right now.
Yep.
What's the deadline on applications for this one?
Gosh, Lisa, I hope you know.
It's the
that's the one thing I should have looked
I want to
at.
say the 8th of May.
It's the 8th of May.
8th of May. And is this going to be a one-off? Is this, because I can see one of the issues here is that, I don't know when you decided, Emily, to return, but when you decide, you don't then want to be waiting a year till the next round opens, or even 6 months feels like a long time to open. It's a kind of thing that needs a rolling. I feel like you should make this a rolling thing, maybe 5 times a year.
That's definitely what we're hoping to do. Obviously, funding allowing, we want to keep it going and keep it open for as long as possible. The longer it's open, the more word will get out there that it's available as well, and hopefully the more applicants we'll get.
Okay, so and that first application process, this one by the 8th of May, what do people have to have done by? I mean, if somebody's watching this now and is suddenly surprised and goes,
contact us.
Oh, I could apply for that.
Absolutely, simply make contact with us.
So you just have to say, I want to apply. You don't have to have anything ready.
No,
you don't have to.
You just have to say, I want to apply. So just contact the Daphne Jackson Trust.
Say, I want to apply, and then that. So even if you're only just catching up on this on YouTube and it's the 6th of May, that should,
even if it's the 7th of May or even the 8th of May, contact us.
Well, they might want to have a little think
about
about it, chat amongst themselves. But if you're not, if you do miss the chance this time around, keep an eye, I would imagine, on, of course, I'm going to say keep an eye on the Dementia Researcher website, on the funding page, and on Daphne Jackson and on Alzheimer's Society, because hopefully there will be another one not too far away. And I know this isn't an Alzheimer's Society one, but in researching, getting ready for this, I did see that there's a motor neuron disease call open as well right now with Daphne Jackson. So if we have 5 open opportunities at the moment, Adam. So we've got diabetes, it's Life Arc, There's a lot of overlap with dementia. A lot of people might be in dementia and motor neuron disease. So if you're watching and you're kind of interested in motor neuron disease as well, there is another one open with Life Arc and motor. I mean, the one thing I would say is at any time contact us, because we have these calls when we have made an arrangement with an organisation. But for the rest of the time, we do run a rolling process for our what we call our regular fellowships, where we have sources of funding that we can allocate to fellowships. So really, whoever you are and whatever you're interested in, contact us at any time. So it's not just the open calls. We will accept applications and talk to you about fellowships at any time. Fantastic. I think this is probably going to be, anybody who's watching on Twitter or YouTube, this is your very last chance, I think, to post a question now. But even if you're watching this on catch up and you miss the opportunity, Alzheimer's Society's tagged into this post on Twitter. So please do probably head over to Twitter or drop us an email. How can people email you, Julia, Katie?
So we've got a general inquiries inbox for grants, which is grantinquiries@alzheimers.org.uk. That information and that email address is on our website as well. So head over to the researcher pages on the Alzheimer's Society website and you'll find all the details there. But yeah, you can drop us a line on Twitter and we can direct you to the right people from there as well.
Brilliant.
And so for us, Daphne Jackson website, which is daphnejackson.org. And on there's our general email address, which is djmft@surrey.ac.uk. And again, social media, by all means, send us a tweet or a message on there. But all information on the website.
Brilliant. And for anybody watching, there's a QR code on the screen right now. So if you're watching in YouTube, if you just hold your camera of your smartphone up to the screen, that'll take you straight. And there's also a link in the show notes, and we'll post this to Twitter. And of course, it's on the Dementia Researcher website. So any questions you've got, post them there. Application deadline for this particular Alzheimer's Society one is the 8th of May. And as we've covered, you don't have to have prepared a lengthy application. It's just indicating your interest, and that's enough to get the ball rolling. And keep an eye out for the next ones around. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and talking to us today. And good luck, Emily, in what continues on through the summer.
Thank you.
We haven't got them up there at the moment, but we will have bios on all of our guests on the website as well. So if you're wanting to reach out or talk to individuals as well, we'll put bios on there. So we always like to showcase the people that contribute to the website to help build their profile as well. So thank you very much to our brilliant guests. No more questions have come through. So we have the amazing Dr. Emily Clarke. We have the wonderful Lisa Hammond, the incredible Julie Collins, and of course, the wonderful Dr. Katie Perry from Daphne Jackson Trust. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. And we'll be back again with news as to how many applications you've got and please do, anybody who's watching, please do consider taking up this opportunity. It's a wonderful, really unique program that gives you this opportunity to go back, whatever reasons you've been away for over the last couple of years. This is a great way to find your way back, and dementia research really does need you. And it's the most exciting time right now to be back involved in science and care research, because people with dementia really will benefit from your efforts. So thank you very much, everybody. And Adam, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you. All right. Have a great Friday. See you later.